What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my hands-on and first impressions video of the Samsung Galaxy A04e. So without further ado, let's get started. Now the Galaxy A04e is one of the latest budget smartphones from Samsung, and this phone is certainly meant to be very far in the low end. Now, as you probably know, you can spend well over $1,000 on a smartphone if you want to get all the various features out there. But many people just want kind of the bare minimum. They want a smartphone that's good for phone calls, text messages, taking photos here and there, and doing some occasional social media and watching videos. Not everybody's looking for a smartphone that has all the latest features because they might not end up using them. So if that's you and you just want a phone that takes care of the fundamentals, then you might want to consider going for the Galaxy A04e. Now this is the global version of the device. This phone is not currently available in the US, and I also don't really expect it to be launched in the US either. However, who knows what the future might entail. Regardless though, I definitely wanted to show you the Galaxy A04e here in the channel. But before I get too far into things here with this device, let's see what all comes included here in the box. And I also want to point out the color here of the phone. It is in pink. There are some different colors being offered, which is cool. I thought this one seemed pretty unique. And I also do appreciate that we get this nice wavy look on the back of the phone as well. You can see that it even shows up here on the box. But here's the box that the phone does come in. You can see right there, Galaxy A04e. We'll open this up and see what all is here. The first thing we have is this packet. And then inside of the packet, we just have, if I can get it out of here, we have a quick start guide. So that'll show you how to get started here with the phone. We also have a USB wall adapter. Now this wall adapter is for the UK, I believe, so it will not work here in North America. There is a USB-C cable for charging and data transfer. And then we also have a SIM card removal tool. Now with the Samsung Galaxy A04e, we have a very large 6.5-inch display. Now this display is PLS LCD, and it is a 720p display. Now the PPI that we're getting is 270. We have a 20:9 aspect ratio, so a more narrow but taller form factor. And then finally, we have an 81.8% screen to body ratio. So overall, pretty small bezels all throughout the device. We do have a water drop notch up here for the front facing camera, and then the bottom bezel is slightly thicker. But in general, for a phone that is meant to be very entry level, I feel like we're getting an excellent display here, offering us a lot of value. The display features some really nice colors. Also, viewing angles are not too bad either, despite it being LCD. And then, even though it is 720p, things do look pretty decently crisp and clear here. Definitely for a phone in this category, in this price range, it seems to offer one of the better displays that I've seen. I've seen devices that are a lot more expensive than this one that don't even have displays at this level. Now in that water drop notch up top here, we do have a 5 megapixel front facing camera, and stay tuned for my full review video of the Samsung Galaxy A04e, as I'll be showing you a variety of different photo and video samples from all the various cameras on this phone. Now internally, with the Galaxy A04e, we do only have 32 gigabytes of storage, but we also do get microSD card expansion. Now I've got to say, in 2023, I feel like 32 gigabytes is definitely not enough. Now the SD card expansion is nice, but nothing's better than having a lot of internal space, so you're just gonna have to make the most of the 32 gigs that you're getting here. But I suppose if you pretty much download nothing on your device and you only use kind of the main functions of it, like phone calls and text messages, you probably will still be able to get by with 32 gigs. But as time goes on, apps will continue to get bigger and bigger. That seems to be the trend, especially over the last decade. So 32 gigs probably doesn't get you as much now as it got you 5 or 6 years ago, for example. Now, unfortunately, with the Galaxy A04e, there's no wireless charging. However, that is pretty much expected with lower end devices like this one. Now, another thing that this phone does not have, which is very disappointing, is no fingerprint sensor. Now, thankfully, we do have face unlock here with the phone, but it certainly would have been nice to have a fingerprint sensor. Now, of course, if you just want to put in your PIN code to access the phone, you can do that too. So that's pretty much a function that every phone has had since the beginning of smartphones. Now, in addition to the front-facing 5 megapixel camera, we also have 2 cameras on the back of the phone, with the main camera being 13 megapixels, and then the secondary camera being a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera to assist with portrait mode. So this phone does have portrait mode for both the rear and front-facing cameras. I'll show you how that works right now, but essentially, here's how things are with the standard camera. And I've got to say, I haven't really tested this out too much, but at the same time, things do look good so far. I'm pretty confident that with the cameras that we're getting here, you'll at least be able to capture photos and videos that are decent enough to preserve various memories. Maybe you're going on vacation, for example, and you want to take photos to post on social media. I feel like this phone will be adequate for that. But of course, just know that compared to a phone that's a lot more expensive than this one, you're definitely not getting the quality that you'd find with a phone in a higher price range. Now then from here, we can go over to portrait to access portrait mode. So we get those nice blurred out backgrounds. We also have a blur slider here too, which is pretty convenient. Flipping around to the front facing camera, you can take portrait selfies as well here. And then you can also head over to the group selfie option to crop out a little bit. So we're definitely missing some different features that you'd find with a higher end phone, like an ultra wide angle camera or a macro camera, for example. But for a phone like this in this segment, I feel like we are getting some pretty decent cameras here. So we also have some additional modes like Pro Mode, Panorama, Food Mode, and Hyperlapse. So quite a few abilities. Now internally with this device, we're getting 3GB of RAM paired up with the MediaTek Helio P35 processor. Now that processor has been out for quite a while. It's certainly an entry-level processor. And with it paired up with 3GB of RAM, you should expect to get some decent performance in the sense that you can certainly use the phone. It'll work fine for phone calls, text messages, watching some video content here and there, and also occasional social media. But if you are somebody that finds yourself constantly on your phone, then I can see some potential disappointments here, as you probably will be frustrated with how slow it is. Now, I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 5 to give you a better idea of the type of performance to expect here, but essentially, I got a single core score of 155 and a multi-core score of 916. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores to get a better idea of how the A04e compares, because just looking at these numbers alone really doesn't mean anything unless you're comparing it to another device. Another downside with this phone as well, which you probably expected, is that it is not 5G compatible. So unfortunately, this phone is limited to just 4G LTE. Now at this point in 2023, I definitely think you can get by with just 4G LTE, but if you're going to go through all the trouble and work of getting a brand new smartphone, I feel like you may as well get one that does support your carrier's latest and greatest network. But if you don't mind that, then I suppose it's not a problem. Now, in addition to that, this phone does feature a 5,000 milliamp hour internal battery, so I really do appreciate that we're getting such a large battery here with the phone. Definitely expect to get some very generous battery life with it, definitely a full day, if not 2 days of usage. Now, the software that we're getting here is Android 12, with Samsung skin laid over. So essentially, Samsung has added in their own various features and also some other customizations to Android. But if you've used any Samsung phone in the last 4 or 5 years especially, then the experience here will be very familiar to you. Now, unfortunately, with the Galaxy A04e, there is no NFC, so if you do like to make mobile contactless payments using tap and pay, for example, then just know that you cannot do that here with this phone. But now that we've gone over a variety of different things about the Samsung Galaxy A04e, let's take a closer look at the hardware of the device. Now, this phone is made completely of plastic, besides the display, which is glass, so certainly keep that in mind, and I would recommend pairing this phone up with some sort of case, just so that it doesn't get too scratched up as time goes on. But I am a big fan of this look on the back of the phone. Typically, I'm not a fan of having a glossy back, as that does pick up a lot of fingerprints, but I think this kind of wavy look to the phone kind of makes up for that, so in general, it's not too bad. Some decent materials here. Taking a look at the left side of the device, we have the slot for the micro SD card and SIM card. Then on the right side of the phone, we have volume up, volume down, and then also the power button. Then up top here, we have the noise canceling microphone. And then on the bottom of the phone, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and we have the speaker. And then on the back of the device, we have the dual camera setup, flash, and that's pretty much it. So in general, this phone is certainly relatively low end. In fact, probably very low end. There's not really too many other phones that would slot a tier below this one, and certainly from Samsung. But at the same time, I do feel like it is a very good value. So if you're looking for a phone that kind of does the bare minimum, but at the same time is still reliable, and from a reputable brand, which Samsung is known to be, then you might want to consider going for the Samsung Galaxy A04e. But overall, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something new today, and if you liked it, certainly give the video a thumbs up. But this is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next one. Take care and have a great rest of your day.